Well, thank you. Once again, thank you for having me. And once again, Lionel, thank you for the day we met, where we made that incredible connection, and our family continues to grow with each other through the Happiness Club and through the people that we continue to meet. And welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for having me. Audrey Carlson from Newington. And I'm delighted to be here with you and share perhaps just a distilled version of what I can share with you in the time that we have this morning. In the aftermath of tragedy, how one comes to choose happiness. And I would just want to start out by saying that once again, as we've heard many, many times, happiness is indeed a choice. I took a program, a course some time ago with a very, very unique woman, Dr. Jean Folks, who taught a class on death and dying. And she proposed a question to the class, which was predominantly undergrads, and I was certainly not. If you were to choose happiness or peace, which would you choose? The hands went up and down and up and down. And as she clearly said, there's no right or wrong answer. The answer that I chose was peace from within, because peace from within paves the way to happiness. There are so many people that we have met and we know and we continue to meet that come out of tragedies and holocausts of their own that are just unimaginable. And they could be just indeed that one sole survivor. And they ask themselves, here I am, dear God, what do you want from me? Right? And happiness is not even a thought that could even enter the realm of their thinking, that they could even laugh one day, let alone imagine being happy. However, if they could just trust the process, and you may hear me say this again, trust the process, that if we have that unshakable faith, whatever that looks like to you, that unshakable faith that we will find our way. I have worked with many people through the survivors of homicide and others that have gone through terrible grief where they have blamed God. Not once in my life have I ever blamed God for anything that has ever happened in my life. I have come to believe, for me, people hurt people. God did not hurt people. Jonathan, the guy who killed our daughter, killed our daughter. God didn't kill our daughter. So we lived with a pathway that nobody ever expected to. We had to navigate our way through finding a way to through the criminal justice system, and we continue to, which is yet another chapter in our lives. And we as a family, my husband and our surviving daughter, Leslie, held each other that week of Shiva, where we had so many people come to our home because the tragedy shook our community. We had so many people come that week where we were embraced, we were comforted, and we had a week to process and find our way together, starting out with hope. Hope that something, I don't know how, we were going to find our way through, because you don't get over a tragedy, you go through. And for me, and for many of us, we know that you can't go through life without disappointment, failure, grief, and loss. It's what we choose to do with what we are faced with, the challenges. And we had to make a decision. That week of Shiva, where we were together, we held each other very tight. And there were moments where, I'll be honest with you, as you heard in the intro, in my bio, I couldn't breathe. I had severe anxiety. We all had onset of PTSD that was beyond anything anyone can ever imagine, because it's the unimaginable. So I had to learn how to breathe in what I need and to breathe out what I need to get rid of. And this was taught to me by a very renowned, may he rest in peace, Rabbi Henry Okalika, who was a rabbi here in New Britain, Connecticut, who was indeed a Holocaust survivor. He told me to understand that one place that we all know where we transition from a deep sleep into an awareness or a consciousness where we know we're awake. We haven't stirred under the covers, we haven't wiggled our toes, we haven't swallowed. Yet we know we're alive and we know we're awake. And at that moment, he taught me to find that one prayer to say thank you to God that I am indeed alive. And if I'm alive, how am I going to live? How am I going to forecast my day? How do I want my day to play out? So, beginning with the breath, I would breathe in what I need, and I would breathe out what I need to get rid of to the count of 6. And I would forecast, or at least project, how I wanted the day to play out, attaching an emotion. So, beginning with this practice that I continue every day, it's been 23 years since our daughter was murdered in 2002. I do this practice. We become our words. We become our words. And I would project how I wanted my day to play out, whether I needed resilience, whether I needed strength, I needed focus, I needed to be able to find calm. And my day did indeed play out the way I wanted it to. And I started to really dig deeper into that invisible, intangible spirit world where I, again, as I said earlier, I have unshakable faith in God. So, what I started to do was read as much as I could on a healing process, but trusting, and we all know to trust that innate intuitive gift that we all have, that the body does heal itself. You have to trust the process. The body will indeed heal itself. However, we know God helps those who help themselves. So I had to find a way through my faith and through just understanding that I was blessed with that innate gift of intuition and positive thinking. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. So I started out with gratitude. For me, that continues to be and always will be that one of the key principles of paving the way to happiness. Looking at what I do have, not what I don't. I have a husband, I have a daughter, I have a doggie, I have incredible friends and family, and I have my health. Our health is our wealth. I started to look at all the things that I can do, not what I can't. And we all know this to be true because we all live the same life where we can't do what we used to. I used to run marathons. I don't do that anymore. I walk. I find the gratitude and the gifts and the beauty in the world wherever I can. And there are the miracles. The miracles exist as long as you look for them and you trust. So I found a way to find what I needed through gratitude. And the more I practiced that, my life, little by incrementally, little by little. And I can't even give you a scale of how long it took because it took a very long time. And then I realized I could give myself permission to be human and laugh. I didn't think I could ever laugh again. I didn't think I could ever have fun again because there was that level of guilt and survivor's guilt. And that soon diminished. It always lingered a little bit. And we as a family had to find a way to grieve together and separately because we all had our own pathways. There's no right or wrong, and there's no timetable. Yet, we found our way. I also believed that the role of pets was a very key factor for us because those who have pets statistically live longer than those that don't, even if you never walk them. And we've had a lifetime of doggies, and they were very instrumental in picking up our moods, our pain, and they were comforting when I didn't want to burden other family members. You see, music. It took me almost a year to be able to put my fingers on the keys of the piano again. And I've played since I'm 5 years old, and I play every day. I couldn't bring myself to play piano because my tears would soak the keys. I struggled, and little by little, I found my way. And I still continue to play piano, which brings me a lot of joy. I found that 1 year after Elizabeth was murdered, I needed to give back. And I went back into a school system where I wanted to speak to the students and how to recognize healthy and unhealthy relationships so that just perhaps my words could help one person find their way and save a life. And we did. And I continue to do that. I also learned that the word hope had new meaning for me. And I started to surround myself with a lot of people who were deeply enrooted and embedded in what many of us already do. We're lifelong learners. And how to understand hope from a different perspective. Hope and prayer are key. However, you have to put them into action. Our energies speak for themselves. We pray together as a congregation. We pray together on a global level, and yet our hope and our dreams and our prayers will really come to fruition if we put them into action. So I'd like to just discuss just for a moment what I learned about hope. Basically, as a verb, as an action verb. Many people say that we wish for, dream of, have optimism, and anticipate and want something to happen. The problem with a wish is that you can do something to make the future better. It's not a wish that things will get better, but an actual belief. So even when there may be no evidence that anything will change, hope is not pretending that troubles don't exist. It's the trust that we can find the source of strength that is within us and lead us through the darkness. Hope comes alongside difficulty, being open to discussing fears that can foster hope. Hope is a decision. That's the key one right there, the operative word. Hope is a decision. Hope can be a part of one's upbringing from childhood. It can also be developed through life experiences, passed on from friends, from spiritual or perhaps religious philosophy, or from examples in life. Hope can be taught. We can teach ourselves. Imagination is the instrument of hope. We have to imagine ourselves in the future context. I had to imagine myself. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, that just somehow that I would hope through the work that I was doing, the people I surrounded myself with, that somehow I would find a level of happiness, new meaning in life. What that looked like, I had no idea. But I trusted the process, and I knew innately that somehow I would find a new way to live and a new way to find that new meaning and purpose in life, and how Elizabeth's legacy would indeed live on. You know, and I know that at the end of the day, a lot of what we have materialistically doesn't make it a hill of beans of difference. It's our love that is our legacy. Love lives on. Excuse me, I got to just get a little bit of water. So, hope is the foundation on which we build our wellness, and it's our most vital emotion, and it provides emotional strength. So, there's no such thing as false hope. Either you have hope or you don't. And I think for many of us, we do. We hold on to hope. and we never let go. I also want to share the choices I made in terms of what I needed to learn. I had a lot of unanswered questions and I struggled. And you may have heard a little bit earlier on with Sonia that I chose to delve myself into a program of studies through the Graduate Institute, that Integrative Health and Healing, where you actually put together your own program of studies, your internships. And I largely chose the program because Dr. Bernie Siegel was on faculty, and he saved my mother's life back in the 70s with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Although I had never met Bernie Siegel, I knew his work, I knew his words, and he was someone I trusted and I held in the highest of regard. So I approached him, I wrote to him, and he agreed that he would be my mentor. And it began with coming to his house with some questions. And the first one was, can people be born evil? And he shook his head very quickly and he said, absolutely not. It's in the absence of love that people do bad things. And your first assignment will be to go to the prison system and ask them yourselves. That's a whole other chapter that I can speak to you on another day. And I believed him 95%, and yet I still was uncertain because I still wondered, because there was some other people that I spoke with that gave me a different perspective. Well, I did spend the next several months at the prison system, and he was indeed right. However, I still question some things because that's part of my nature. The second thing I did was I had to find another word for forgiveness. Why? I was a hygienist for many, many years in a practice where I'd say 2/3 of the patient base are Portuguese, deeply rooted in their Catholic faith, God bless them, and 5 Marias, independent of knowing each other, all approached me at different times and said, Audrey, if if you don't forgive him for killing Elizabeth, you're going to go to hell. Well, it took my breath away and it stunned me because I was living that hell right then and there. I was in that place of hell, whatever that sounded like, whatever it looked like, I was there and I couldn't imagine it getting any worse. But it stuck with me because I kept hearing it again and again and again. I was also smart enough to understand that if I choose to live with bitterness, hatred, and anger, it will manifest in dis-ease and it will take me down under. And that was not going to happen. So I had to find a new word. And Bernie suggested that I study pastoral counseling as one of the token Jews in a predominantly Christian program where I could find a new word. And I did indeed. I found the word letting go, a Buddhist concept of basically taking the skill set that I already started to put together, breathing in what I need and breathing out what I need to get rid of. And I imagined an invisible giant bubble where I could put Jonathan, the guy who killed our daughter, in this bubble, blow him back out into the universe. And I said to God, because we know, I believe, that we are all God's children. And if we are all God's children, I'm giving him back to you. I'm letting him go with no emotional attachment, no judgment, letting him go, and no expectations. And that is part of the Buddhist mindset. Love, no judgment, no expectations. And I gave him back to God, and I found a sense of freedom, a sense of liberation, and I started to feel like I was yet on another road of healing, which you know and I know has an ing. Why? It's ongoing. We are all healing. It takes a very long time to carve out a new life and what that new normal looks like and how we choose. I will always forever have moments where I go into that place where I am very sad and I miss Elizabeth beyond. And Lionel is the one that gave me a metaphor to understand how I can wrap my head around it and just perhaps make a little bit more sense of it. And Lionel taught me to pretend I'm in a little rowboat. And I'm going to row out into that rowboat with my troubles and my heavy heart. And I'm going to not go out so far that I lose sight of land, because the land represents my life. Don't go out so far with your troubles and your sadness and your grief that you get lost and you get in the turbulence and you get stuck in those waves. You always look back and give yourself permission to have those moments where you can grieve, where you can be sad, yet you know you have to come back to life. And his words gave me that hope and gave me a way to just think a little bit differently how I have to always come back to life. And his words and his wisdom to this day help me every single day, because his wisdom and his understanding was what I needed. And for that, Lionel, I thank you. I've also learned, how are we doing for time, by the way? Because I'm not keeping track. I get lost in time when I speak, so just tell me how I'm doing.
We're coming towards the end.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is just share with those that perhaps have had their own losses and their failures and their griefs and their struggles and their pains, to trust the process, have that unshakable faith, stay connected with your congregation, with the people that help you find your way along this world, help others, share your own stories, and find 10%, no less than 10% of your day to carve out where you get lost in time. Because that's my definition of meditation, where you can just get lost in time doing whatever that might be, so that your days don't meld into perhaps weeks and then months, and you don't know where the year went. Here we are, it's almost October. And to find ways to just find the pause and stay together and find ways to give yourself permission to be human, to laugh, and live with gratitude. And I want to say thank you and bless you all. Thank you.
If you like this video, please like us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. Thank you.